Christie.
Well, I am happy. Listen, I'm happy to be in Ohio, and I'm happy to be in the place that is going to make sure that Mitt Romney is the next president of the United States of America. You know, last Sunday, the Romney campaign asked me to go on all those Sunday morning talk shows. You know, Meet the Press, Face the Nation, and my favorite this week with my buddy George Stephanopoulos. And I went out there and I just did what I normally do. I told them exactly what I thought. And all these people reacted crazy. I said, listen, I know Mitt Romney, and I know what's going to happen next Wednesday night at the debate. I looked at George Stephanopoulos, I said, George, next Thursday morning you're going to wake up scratching your head, because this race is going to be upside down, and Mitt Romney did it, didn't he? And what did he do? What did he do? He just went out there and told the truth. That's all he did. And the president doesn't have any answer for that. Now you listen, you look at the president. I watched the president during that debate. I mean, I think he kept looking down at that pad on that podium and saying, please, God, give me an answer to this stuff, please. He kept looking down, hoping that the magic ink would appear on that pad. The magic ink that would explain all the lost jobs on his watch. The magic ink that would explain America's diminished standing around the world. The magic ink that would explain why middle-class families are making thousands of dollars less than they were before he became president. The magic ink that would give him the explanation that he could look at your family in the eye and explain why, after 4 years of failure, that he deserves 4 more years. You know, the worst part of last Wednesday night, the worst part of it, was that we had our president standing up there with no explanation to the American people for why we're in the condition we're in. And the only person with an answer up there on that stage, the only person who had the confidence to look the American people in the eye and say, listen, we've got big problems. It's going to hurt to solve some of them, but I'm going to work with you. We're going to make it happen. We're going to do it together, and we're going to bring this country back to greatness, is the guy who I know will always tell you the truth and make you proud to have him sit behind the desk in the Oval Office. We got to work for Mitt Romney the next 28 days. Get him elected. Now, you know what's going to happen now. You all know this because you're from Ohio and you've seen lots of interesting and rough politics over the years. So you don't need a guy from New Jersey coming in here to explain it to you, but let me just say, here's what we're going to see the next 4 weeks. See, the president's bleeding now. You know, he got hit pretty hard. He got hit pretty hard last Wednesday night. He's still talking about it. I saw him on TV this morning in Los Angeles explaining that the reason he didn't do well was because he was too nice. Too nice. Too nice. Well, okay. You know, I mean, when you get your butt beat as bad as he did, you know, last Wednesday, you got to come up with some kind of excuse, right? So now his excuse is he was too nice. So what's that tell you? What that tell you is that the next 4 weeks are going to get pretty mean. The next 4 weeks get pretty angry. We're going to see Chicago ward politics brought to the national stage by this president and by all of the folks who work for him in that headquarters in Chicago. And so here's what we need to do. We need to make sure that we don't let the American people get fooled again. See, where I grew up in New Jersey, my mom used to say to me all the time, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So we can't get fooled again in this election. Not like 4 years ago. So he's going to say all kinds of awful things about Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan. They're already saying that Mitt Romney's a liar. They're already saying that the things he said at the debate last week weren't true. Well, if they weren't true, Mr. President, why didn't you stop him right then? The reason he didn't was because they were true. And now he's scrambling, trying to figure out how to explain it. And when he can't do that, then he's going to start to get even meaner. And nastier. This guy is going to take whatever shots he can take at Mitt Romney in the next 4 weeks, and we got to be ready for it. But here's the good news. The good news is, just like they say in church on Sundays, the truth will set you free. And so the truth is that Mitt Romney's got a plan to put Americans back to work. The truth is that Governor Romney knows what we need to do to become energy independent in this country, so we don't have to worry about wars overseas or anything else when it comes to our energy. We'll have it right here in the United States and in Canada where we can count on it. Mitt Romney, our President of the United States, Keystone Pipeline would already be built from Canada all the way down to the south of this country. And men and women would be working on it. Energy would be flowing from Canada, cheaper for all of us, and we wouldn't be paying the money we're paying at the pump. You notice that? Now, you notice now the president's not talking anything about gas prices, is he? He talked a lot about gas prices 4 years ago when he was running for president, when they were half of what they are today. See, the truth sets us free. And that's why I've been saying all along, what this election is about the Republican Party being the truth tellers. Now, the president's got to make up a story in the next 4 weeks, a convincing one, to convince people all across Ohio that he deserves another 4 years. Now, listen, my state, we got so many Democrats. Oh, man. 700,000 more Democrats than Republicans. It's a tough place to be a Republican governor, I got to tell you. But don't worry, we have broad shoulders. We will persevere. But here in Ohio, you're a state of consequence, everybody. Whoever wins Ohio is going to be the next president of the United States. You know that's true. Whoever wins is going to be the next president of the United States. Right. So now it's up to you. See, the great thing, and the reason I'm in Ohio, and I'm going to be in Ohio for the next 2 days with Mitt, the reason I'm here is because I know that every person whose hand I shake, every person who hears my voice, every person whose ears are open can make the difference in turning our country around. Each and every one of you, not just by your own vote, because you're standing in this crowd, you better be voting for Mitt Romney in 4 weeks. But it's not just that. I got to ask you to do something for me. Now, I flew all the way heck out here from New Jersey, so the least you could do is just do me one little favor. And here's the favor I want you to do for me. When you go home after this rally today, I want you to go home and I want you to open up your phone book. Whether it's in one of those Blackberries or iPhones or whether it's still on paper, wherever it is, open up your phone book. And I want you to call every person in there and tell them over the next 4 weeks, not only are you voting for Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, but you're working for Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan. Explain to them why it's so important for our country's future. Don't just be someone who sits on the sidelines. You're here today, let's extend it. So look at your calendar for the next 4 weeks. Say, how much time can I spare in the next 4 weeks to change my country? See, because here's the problem, everybody. If we don't do that, we run the risk of being the first generation to leave a worse country to the next generation. Every generation before us, going all the way back to the founding fathers, they've made one thing really clear, that the next generation deserves something better as Americans than what they had. And they worked and worked and worked to make it happen. And we now are at risk of being the first generation because of the failed policies and the fake hope and change that was offered to us 4 years ago. We now run the risk of being the first ones not to meet that standard. I know that people in Ohio are a lot like people in New Jersey. You work hard. You care about your family. You love your neighbors. And you want this country to be as great or greater for your kids and your grandkids as it was for you. And the only way to do that is to get involved now. The only way to make a difference is to get involved now. There's no sitting on the sidelines for anybody. Politics in 2012 is not a spectator sport, everybody. We got to get involved, and you started by coming here today. You all been working. I'm sure so many of you in this audience have been working already, but 28 days to go. This is it. The whole world's paying attention now. And your neighbors, your friends, your relatives, the folks you see at football games on Friday night, the folks you see on the soccer fields on Saturday afternoon, the folks you see in the church parking lots on Sunday, folks you see in the supermarket checkout lines on Monday, folks you see around the water cooler on Tuesday morning at work. Those people are going to be the people who are going to decide this election. And you can sit by and say nothing to them, or you can put those stickers on every day, and you can walk up to people and say, I'm for these guys. And I'm for these guys because America deserves better. I'm for these guys because my children deserve better. I'm for these guys because the last guy failed, and we need to give him a ticket back to Chicago. So, we don't accept failure in this country. We don't accept failure for ourselves. We don't accept failure for our children. And we don't accept failure at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And I want to tell you two things. Just remember two things. When you're making these explanations to these friends and neighbors and relatives and clients and coworkers, say, well, why should I? What's the big difference? I'll tell you two things. And see, I'm an old prosecutor. And so, forgive me if I like to prosecute the case against the President of the United States, and in the most effective way you can, using his own words. See, I learned a long time ago in the courtroom, if you're trying to prosecute and convict somebody, my words aren't nearly as effective as their own. And the jury will believe their own words, comes right out of their own mouth. So let me give you two examples. First is the President of the United States said a couple weeks ago, you can't change Washington from the inside. Now this is really interesting. I mean, I felt bad for the president. I decided to go on TV because I felt bad for him. I thought obviously he was confused. Maybe he had become disoriented. So I went on TV to remind him, Mr. President, you live inside 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. If you can't change Washington from inside the White House, then why the hell are you asking us for 4 more years? If he doesn't believe he can change it, it's time to send him home. But here's the other thing that's even scarier. Now, a few weeks ago, I watched the Democratic National Convention. I did it as a sacrifice and service to my country. I sat on my couch at home, and I made my 12-year-old son Patrick bring me a big bottle of water, because when I hear that much BS, I get disoriented and lightheaded. I needed to be hydrated to make sure I stayed awake so I could hear every word of it. And I sat there and listened to it, and let me tell you, it's hard to pick out what was the worst thing I heard. But here it is. Here it is. They said at the Democratic Convention, government is the only thing we all belong to. Right? Now, for those of you in the back who maybe didn't hear that, let me try that one more time. This is what they actually said this. And they put it up in graphics, up on a big screen, right? Like it was something to be proud of. They said, government is the only thing we all belong to. No, I'm getting a feeling, but I don't know what they taught you here in school in Ohio, but I'll tell you what they taught me at school, even in New Jersey. They taught me that we don't belong to government, that the government belongs to us. I mean, I read the Constitution. It doesn't say we the government, does it? It says we the people. The power comes from us, and we grant power and authority from us to the government. Limited power and authority that we explicitly give them. And the president tries to make it seem like the government is some fun little club we can all belong to. Like, oh, isn't it nice? We all belong to government. We can all sit around and talk about our government club, and we all belong to government. No, that's not what he's talking about. What he wants is he wants us to be pawns in his game with him and his Washington bureaucrats, sitting in cubicles in little buildings, deciding who the winners and losers are in America because they're smarter, they know better, and government should run everything in their world. Well, let me tell you, I do not want to stand by willingly and allow our country to be determined and let the winners and losers be determined by anything other than what it's always been determined by in America, by 3 things: our integrity, our ingenuity, and our work ethic. That's what should determine winners and losers in America, not bureaucrats in Washington, D.C.